What's up everyone? In this video, we're going to be going through a full walkthrough and guide of our brand new stock analysis dashboard. For those of you who don't know, we have this brand new tool, the stock analysis dashboard, that is changing the way fundamental analysis is done with retail traders. Previously, if you wanted to look at a company's fundamentals, let's say Apple for example, you would head over to Yahoo Finance and you would see a couple years worth of unorganized and just bad data. It's just hard to read and it's hard to actually see how the company has been performing over the past couple of years. We're changing that by showing you the most important fundamental analysis or fundamental data that you can analyze. You can add basically any data points that you want to see on the chart, and you get full access to interactive financial statements. We have an awesome video today. The brand new dashboard is awesome, and we're very excited how it turned out. So I do want to showcase something pretty cool, and that's how the dashboard has progressed over time. This was the first version of the dashboard. Honestly, it sucked. It didn't really look too good, and over a lot of I guess you can say testing, we turned this uninteractive Google Sheets document into the masterpiece we have today, where you can basically type in any ticker symbol and get the most important data in a very fast way, and you can see basically any data you want to see. And we have a lot of other features that we're going to be talking about later in the video, like calculating your own price targets, comparing any stocks against each other, full access to the financial statements, and a lot more. So we have a great video today. The stock analysis dashboard is awesome. If you do not have it already, definitely check it out. It's going to be that first link in the description and the comments down below. Fundamental analysis is extremely important. All of the top dogs use it, whether you guys like it or not. If we look at like Berkshire Hathaway, for example, Warren Buffett's company, Warren Buffett is not getting these stellar returns based off of head and shoulders, technical analysis, breakouts, and stuff like that. He's using fundamentals, and a lot of other top players use them as well. They're extremely important. But back to the video. So in this example, we're going to be looking at Apple, and I'm just going to show you how everything works. So if you do decide to sign up for the dashboard, you will get the most out of it. So if we look in the first little section, we can see the company that we're looking at. Basically, you can type in whatever stock you want in the top left. So I typed in Apple, so I just pressed Apple, enter. We can see what the company does. We can see the stock price that it's currently at. We can see their market caps or their valuation, and we can even see companies similar to Apple. So of course we have Microsoft that comes up first and other companies like that. What's really cool about the similar tickers section is it's interactive, so you can click on Microsoft and automatically be taken to Microsoft's fundamentals. So that's awesome. I'm going to go back to Apple though. If we go to the next section, we can see the trailing 12 months of some of Apple's most important metrics. You know, we can see their dividend yield, we can see their earnings per share, their PE ratio, net profit margin, price of sales, and a bunch of other data points like that. This just gives you like a little snapshot of how everything has been going fundamentally with Apple, just in like a quick, easy to visualize way. Of course, we can dive a lot deeper into Apple, and that's what we're gonna do in this video. But it's nice to have that little snapshot. So what's really cool is the interactive charts we're seeing on the screen. Like I said in the previous, or a couple minutes ago, in the previous version, you couldn't edit any of these charts. Like it's like what was there was there. Like you couldn't change it, but you can change these charts however you want. So I'm looking at a chart of Apple's revenue and cost of revenue over the past 10 years, right? Let's say I only want to see Apple's revenue, then I would just click out cost of revenue, and now I just see their revenue. Let's say I only wanted to see Apple's cost of revenue, then I would just click out revenue, and I only see the cost of revenue. So that's really cool in that sense, but you can also see the data broken down into quarterly segments, you can say. So to do that, you would go to the settings bar at the top left. You would click the data frequency and change it from annually to quarterly, press X, and now the data is in a quarterly format. So you can see it like that if you want to. So I'm going to go back to the annual version just for this video, but I also want to demonstrate how you can plot any data points that you want. Like I said, I'm plotting revenue versus cost of revenue, but if I want to, I can click this and I can change it to interest income versus interest expenses, and I can see how that has performed over time. So that's awesome. I'm going to go back to revenue and cost of revenue because that's just what I prefer, but of course you can customize this to whatever you like, and that's what makes the dashboard so awesome, because at the end of the day, everyone has their own unique investing process, and everyone looks at different things. And that's why I think this dashboard's an awesome tool, because you can customize it however you like, and you can make it optimal for your investing process. So that's awesome. Also, we can scroll down and add basically as many charts as you want. So to add a new chart, you would just click add new chart. You click it. Let's say I want to do a quarterly one, so I do quarterly. I click X. And let's say I want to plot Apple's, let's say, long-term debt versus their total assets, right? And I can see how that has moved over time. And if I want to, I can change it to an annualized version too, which is pretty cool. And then if I ever want to delete it, I would just click settings and delete, and then it's gone. So it's pretty awesome. The data loads very quickly. So like, let's say I want to go back to Microsoft, obviously it loads very quickly. That's awesome. You can also change the, I guess you can say, theme of it. So if we go to the top right over here, I'm on this like bright white setting, but you can change it to a dark theme if you want to also. So you click I guess you can see the menu at the top right here, and you click toggle dark theme, and then the color scheme changes. So if you prefer a darker theme, you can do that, no problem. So I'm gonna go back to the white theme really quickly. You can also add data labels to the chart. So if we click on settings, you can do show data labels, and then go back to the dashboard, and now you can see these labels all over the chart. I like it better without the data labels, but if you want them on there, that's perfectly fine. You can easily take it off as well. So that's cool. Another thing that's pretty cool is, let's say you are looking at a company like, I don't know, let's say you're looking at like Kraft Heinz or something like that. Let's say you want to go to their website. You can just click this little button right here, and it will take you directly to their website. So if you want to learn more about the company, it's pretty awesome in that sense. You get like a direct link to their website if you ever wanted to. So that's really cool. Now I want to shift over into the financial statements part of the dashboard. So if we went back to like Yahoo Finance, like I said, like you can see the income statement, balance sheet, and the cash flow statement if you wanted to, but like look at this balance sheet compared to what we have to offer. So you have this balance sheet, and then we go over to the statements, Apple statements, and we go down to our balance sheet. It's just much more interactive. It looks better. You can see how it's broken down into yearly data. If you want to, you can change that to quarterly data just by clicking on quarterly, and it shows you the correct data. I'm gonna go back to annual data, but you can also highlight different rows if you want to. So like, let's say you're doing a bunch of different fundamental, I guess you could say, analyses on a bunch of different stocks. What you can do is, if you're always looking for like a certain metric like total asset versus total liabilities, you can highlight that so it's easier to see for other companies that you're looking at. So that's a really cool tool. If we scroll down, like this is the balance sheet, obviously, so we're seeing like total assets versus total liabilities. But if we continue to scroll down to like the income statement, we can see the weighted shares outstanding over time, which is pretty big. If we continue to scroll down by the cash flow statement, we can see Apple's acquisitions over time, how much stock they've been repurchasing. This is very big when looking at whether a stock is worth investing into or not. Generally, if a company is repurchasing shares, that's a great sign. We can see Apple has been repurchasing a lot of shares over the past couple of years, which is a good sign, and that's part of the reason Apple stock has done so well. Like I said, you can shift over to quarterly data if you want. It definitely is very convenient in that sense, and you just get access to as much data as you want. Like literally, we're giving you everything you could possibly need to know when looking at a company's fundamentals. So now if we shift over into the TA dashboard, we also have a pretty cool section that allows you to compare stocks against each other. So let's say you're considering investing into Apple or Microsoft, or maybe both of them, you can compare them against each other. So I already have this pulled up, but let's say you were looking at Facebook versus Microsoft, right? And you wanted to change it to Apple. So let's say we went back to Apple. You can see how the stocks have performed against each other. So we can see like Apple over the past couple of years has done very well, obviously. You can see how the stock price has moved. You also get access to the 50 simple moving average, the 200 simple moving average. Our system identifies whether the stock, in terms of like a weekly basis, is in an uptrend or downtrend. Same with monthly, 6 months, and yearly. So you can see how the stock is moving, and our system will tell you whether or not it's actually in an uptrend. So that's really cool. You can just see it right where my cursor is on both stocks. Also, if you did not want the simple moving averages, you can X them out by just clicking on them. And now we can see that they went away. Same thing with Microsoft. They went away. We can also compare how Apple and Microsoft have performed against each other over the past 2 years, which is pretty cool. We can see in the green we have Apple, and the red we have Microsoft. We can see Apple has outperformed Microsoft by around 74%, and they have a correlation of around 0.918. So it's really cool, because if you're ever wondering, which stocks move together, you can just check using the software. So we can see while Apple and Microsoft have a correlation of 0.918, we can see Apple and Facebook, their correlation will obviously be different. So we can see their correlation is only 0.5s. And we can see that there was like a big discrepancy recently. We can see for the most part, Apple and Microsoft have moved together, but it looks like in February, that pattern kind of shifted, obviously when Facebook fell off of their earnings report. So it's just really cool. It's a pretty awesome tool. And then if we move over into the calculator tab, this is pretty awesome. So in this example, we're going to be looking at Intel. Basically, it shows you what price you need to be paying for the company in order to get the, I guess you can say, target percentage return you want. So I'll explain this with a good example in a second. So like I said, we're looking at Intel, right? We can see we're looking at Intel, and we want to analyze them for the next 10 years. What we have in front of us is the past couple of years, Intel's net income percentage and cash flow margin percentage. This gives us a good idea of the assumptions that we should be putting in all the way here at the bottom. So basically, with this annual return percentage, what you want to do is you want to put in your goal of your annual percent return. So like, let's say you want to make 10% on your money every single year, and you think if you can make 10% on your money every single year, then Intel would be a good investment for you. Obviously, you want to make the highest percentage possible, but you have to be realistic. So for example, I have 10% annualized return because that is what would make me happy if I can get that by investing into Intel. Let's say you needed like a 15% return to make Intel worth your investment. You would just change that to 15, and if we go to calculate, you could see that your bare price target would be around $33.36. Basically what that means is you can pay any price at $33.36 or lower for Intel, and you should get a 15% return every single year for the next 10 years as long as your assumptions are correct. I'm going to go back to 10% because I want to demonstrate an example. But basically what you can do is you can input your assumptions. Let's say you look at Intel. Let's say we go back to the main dashboard. We look at Intel. We can see that they've been a solid company for a long time. They know what they're doing. They are a leader in the semiconductor space. And, obviously they're not as volatile as like a Tesla or an AMD or an NVIDIA or something like that. They're more of a value stock type play. They pay a 3% dividend, and they're just like a slow and steady company. So let's say you look at Intel and you think the whole market is overlooking their growth potential. You might say, all right, I think Intel can have an annualized revenue growth rate of 2%. I think that they can have a profit margin of 20%, because if we go back to the dashboard, we can see that their net profit margin is 25% now. So let's say I'm being very, very conservative, and let's say I think they could have a 20% profit margin, right? You could put that in. Let's say you think they're going to trade at a PE of 12. Right now they're trading at a PE of 9.6, right? So we go back to the calculator, and let's say you think you're going to have a free cash flow margin of 18%. We can get this idea by looking at the cash flow margin right here. And let's say you think that they were going to trade at a price to free cash flow ratio of 12. Right now they're trading at a price to free cash flow ratio of 19.8. So like these are very, very conservative assumptions. As long as Intel can fulfill your criteria, basically, and we click calculate, we can see that if you pay $45.46 or lower for Intel, you will get a 10% return every single year on Intel for the next 10 years if your assumptions are correct. But what's cool is you can make like bear, base, and bull price targets to see whether or not the stock you're looking at is worth investing into, and this is a giant tool. What really helps you with this is sometimes people kind of get out of control with their assumptions. So like for example, let's say we go back to Intel, we can see that in 2021 they had an annual revenue of around $79 billion, right? That's awesome. $79 billion, okay? Some people will be like, all right, $79 billion, the semiconductor space is growing a lot. I think Intel can have a revenue growth rate of 20% annualized. Obviously, at first, 20% doesn't seem a ton, like an insane amount, but when you click calculate, our software tells you what the final revenue will be at the end of the 10 years. So like I said, Intel's revenue right now is at $79 billion a year. If you put in a 20% revenue growth rate every single year for the next 10 years, that will give Intel a final revenue of $489 billion. It's probably unrealistic. So our software like kind of helps you avoid making those mistakes. So like if we wanted to be a little bit more realistic, let's say we changed it to like 7% in the bull case, right? Basically, you just input your assumptions and the software tells you the price you have to pay for that company in order to get your desired annual percent return. So like let's say with Intel, let's say I'm looking at my bull case, and let's say I'm very bullish on Intel, and I think they will have an annualized revenue growth rate of 7%, a profit margin of 26%, a PE of $16, a free cash flow margin of 22%, and a price to free cash flow of 16. But let's say instead of wanting a 10% return, let's say I was much more selective and I wanted a 20% return. Check how the bull price target will change. Basically, it'll say instead of being able to pay $96, the number will go a lot lower. So let's check this out. It'll go from like $96 down to $49.50. So basically our tool is awesome in the sense that it tells you the price that you need to be paying that are in line with your assumptions in order to get your annualized target percentage return. Also, for visualization purposes, we plot your price targets on the chart to just give you an idea of how close your stock is to your price target. So it's awesome in that sense. And we also realize that every company is unique and is in a different growth phase. Obviously, you're not going to compare a company who's been at a, I guess you'd say, more developed part of their business like Intel to a company who's kind of just starting out in the market, right? So what you might do is you will probably want different models to analyze Intel or Apple rather than a company like DraftKings or Zoom or something like that. So we have multiple different calculators so you can, I guess you can say, effectively analyze companies how they should be. So like you wouldn't put like a company like that's new and growing into this type of calculator. You would use the growth calculator, which we have right here. So let's say we went to the growth calculator, and let's say we switched over to DraftKings, right? You press enter, you can input your assumptions. So let's say you want a 10% return every single year for the next 10 years. And let's say you think that DraftKings can have a revenue growth rate of 12% in the bear case, 18% in the base case, and 28% in the bull case. Let's say you thought DraftKings would ultimately trade at a price-to-sales ratio of 4 in the bear case, 5 in the base case, and 7 in the bull case. If you press calculate, the software will tell you the price you need to be paying for DraftKings in order to get that 10% return every single year for the next 10 years. Additionally, we also showcase the terminal revenues just like we did in the previous calculator. Let me show you an example. We can see that the base terminal revenue is assuming an 18% annualized growth rate for the next 10 years, right? That would put DraftKings terminal revenue at like $6.78 billion. If we went back to the dashboard, we can see DraftKings revenue in 2021 was around $1.3 billion. So it gives you an idea of whether or not your price targets are realistic. But basically, if you believe that DraftKings can have a revenue growth rate of 18% every single year for the next 10 years, annualized, and then you think that they'll trade at a price to sales ratio of 5, you can pay anything under $32.38 in order to get your 10% return every single year for the next 10 years, assuming your assumptions are correct. So that's pretty awesome in that case. But overall, it really just makes the investing process much more simple, and it gives you access to the important data. Obviously, you don't need to look at every single data point on the financial statement, but if you want to, you can. And we also showcase everything in an easy to visualize way, unlike Yahoo Finance and basically all of our other competitors. And like I said, just like I said in the beginning of the video, if we look at some of the top investors over the past 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, a lot of them are not using head and shoulders breakout patterns. They are almost always looking at fundamentals at least a little bit, and a lot of retail traders kind of ignore fundamentals, mainly because there's a lot of confusion associated with them, and that's what we're trying to change. That's why we made the dashboard the way we did. It's very interactive, and you can customize it exactly how you want to. It shows you the most important data, and it just shows you more about the company that you can't even know by just looking at the company's stock price. The dashboard is going to be a game-changing tool. Ever since we had this giant upgrade, I've been using it literally every single day. It's an amazing tool, and just like I also showed in the beginning of the video, this was version 1 of the dashboard, and this is version 2. Version 3 and 4 and 5 are going to look even better than it is now. And because of that, the prices will be rising over time. So if you want to try out the dashboard, the link for it will be in the description and the comments down below. It's an awesome tool. You can cancel at any time. The prices will be rising over time. If you decide to sign up, you'll be locked in or grandfathered in at your price for life. So like I said, you can cancel at any time. Definitely check it out. It's an amazing tool. And I think it's going to really help a lot of people trading and investing, So if you plan to be in the market for, any significant amount of time, like even 6 months or more, I think it's very important to look at fundamentals, and I think our dashboard is an amazing tool to do that. Like I said, you compare us to financial or Yahoo Finance, it's not even a comparison. So definitely check it out. It's going to be that first link in the description and the comments down below. I'm very happy with how the dashboard turned out. It's awesome. It loads quickly, and it's very customizable. So thank you guys so much for watching.